guest who over the last many years has been trying to help people, individuals, organizations in terms of being completely mentally well. Let me welcome Ms. Neerja Birla, who's the chairperson of Mpower, which is a mental well-being initiative and a platform to this PW well-being conversation. Welcome, Ms. Birla. And let me ask you right up, in the last 2 odd years, you've been evangelizing the cause of mental well-being and helping individuals and organizations in terms of mental well-being. Give us a sense of what is the impact you've been able to make, and how do you see the road ahead?
So good morning to everybody, whoever is listening to us. It's really lovely to connect, at least in this way, if nothing. And thanks so much, Mr. Batra, for inviting me to this conversation. Yes, Empower has been working in the space of mental health since about 5 years now, because the last 1.5 years has seen an unprecedented focus, in a sense, to mental health, particularly because of the pandemic. So in a sense that, if you look at the upside of it, it was, it's at least helped bring focus on mental health and its concerns, because before that, something like mental health was just not even spoken about. It was usually taboo and stigmatized. It still is, but at least now people are realizing that, this is a serious issue, which has now obviously become worse because of the pandemic. At Empower, we of course, apart from all the counseling services that we do, we've been doing a lot of outreach programs. But particularly with the onset of the pandemic, we started a helpline, which was in collaboration with the BMC and the state government. And so that's been about a year old, and we've seen about almost 75,000 callers. And something that really fascinates me, I don't know whether the word is fascinate or it actually has been quite enlightening, to see that about 78% of the callers have been males. And that trend continues till now. About, sometimes about 60, so ranging between 60 to 70% have been males. And that really brings to focus again that, mental health is pretty much prevalent among the males as well. Being a helpline, it obviously helps them be incognito, which actually has helped them come out and talk about their issues, which otherwise they may find very difficult to talk. Because, let's face it, men are also facing a lot of stereotypical prejudices and behavioral patterns, right? Where men are not supposed to be so-called weak, and having a mental health concern is, unfortunately perceived as being weak. So typically men find it very difficult to talk about it. But, being on the helpline, since they've been incognito, I think it's helped them also talk about a lot of their issues. We also started, of course, we've also started something called the e-clinic, where we're trying to reach out to tier 2 and tier 3 cities with our online services, so that, it's the same service that's available to them as well. And we do have clients from Nasik, Aurangabad. We do have clients from Chhattisgarh. We have, clients from the interior parts of Northeast also. So we get clients from around Bangalore as well. So the e-clinic is another concept that we've started during keeping in mind that the best way to reach out is the online platform.
Absolutely. I think it being incognito and there being a service like this helps a lot of people kind of come out and talk about what they need to talk about. Sometimes just sharing can alleviate the pain or do away with the pain or give you a solution or give you a perspective. Now let me shift gears. We had the first phase of pandemic and it seemed to have subsided, but over the last 30 days, and especially the last 3 weeks, Corona has hit the country very hard. It has meant a loss for a lot of people, personal grief, anxiety about the future, anxiety about families because, loved ones are living in a different city. So what can people do to conquer anxiety?
Conquering anxiety, well, I do think that anxiety, of course, is a part and parcel of life. And like you're saying, particularly so just now, we also see a lot of people with anxiety issues, with depressive disorders, uh, generally feeling of low. Uh, I think the anxiety, of course, is to do a lot with the uncertainty that is around. Uncertain, and it's just a psychological, uh, sort of a barrier that we have, right? It's a feeling of being very stuck, not knowing when this is going to end. And like you're saying, a lot of times people are separated from their family and friends. I think grief has been a very has become a very integral part of our lives the last couple of weeks, because like you said, every morning you wake up and you hear of somebody whom you know has passed away, or somebody whom you know very well. In their family somebody has passed away or is critical. Sometimes it happened that people were trying to reach out, and there was no hospital bed available, there was lack of oxygen in the rural parts of the country. uh, Actually, it happened to my driver, and it was very, very sad because he was in his village, uh, and he didn't know he had corona. And by the time he realized it, he was already quite serious. In his own village, there were no medical facilities. By the time he got to one close by, there was nothing there as well. And so finally, when he did get medical help, it was almost 3.5, 4 hours, and he just couldn't pull through. And he was absolutely hale and hearty. So, stories like that, incidents like that, obviously have left all of us feeling a lot of grief, um, feelings of you don't know when this is going to end, what's going to happen. So I think this is pretty much a part of our lives just now, but I'm sure this will pass. And I think once life again starts getting into some sort of a normalcy, I think when the wave settles down, when health improves, and I think when the lockdown starts lifting, I think that's when we will find some sort of normalcy to our lives, some sort of a familiar routine. And I think that is going to also help all of us come out of this feeling of low and, not knowing when this is going to end.
Also, Ms. Birla, in the past when we've had catastrophe, not of this magnitude, or we've had minor crisis, if I may use that word, we've always looked at authority figures, government, support groups, to be able to pull us out. For whatever reason, the apparatus that is supposed to work has not worked because of the sheer magnitude, let me put it this way, and maybe we're unprepared with a bit of both the magnitude and the unpreparedness of individuals of the system. So, the hope that you have that the system will be able to look after you, your family will be able to look after you, your supports, circle will be able to look after you. Somewhere the faith in that has been kind of eroded. How does one deal with this erosion of faith into uh, the usual support systems that have been existing for many, many years? But for some reason, it seems that the support system may not be good enough. So how does one deal with it?
I think it's I don't well it could I think it's a combination of factors. Of course, the support system has also a lot of the support systems have failed or are not living up to expectations because, like you're saying, the magnitude itself has been really large. But having said that, I think still, I think you're able to continue to reach out to your support system. I think uh, it will definitely help because say if you feel that your support system are your friends or your family, continuing to reach out to them, continuing to connect with them will certainly help. So, like say for example, at Mpower, we've started a support group specifically for people suffering from grief after a loss of a close one, like a near one. So when you talk to people who have similar experiences, I think that shared experience itself kind of makes you feel better. It makes you feel lighter because you realize that there are other people suffering with similar emotions and you're not the only one. And I think there is a comfort in that kind of a connect. So having a support group most certainly helps, and reaching out to your family, friends, I think is a great idea because uh, I think that itself, I really do believe that in these days we need a lot more of oxytocin than what we have. Oxytocin is the love hormone, and that gets released in your system when you are with somebody whom you love, with eye contact, a hug. So hug may not be possible, but at least connecting to people and talking to them, I think that's an integral part, I think, of our well-being. I think just trying to focus on our interpersonal relationships.
Okay, you rightly said human contact is what keeps us going, keeps us hopeful, and staying in touch with your loved ones, even if you're not able to meet through FaceTime calls, through video calls, through a conversation. I think it helps. And kudos to you on starting this initiative to be able to give some kind of compassion to people who lost their loved one. Let me now ask you one question that has been on my mind. How does one know? I mean, you said 60% plus callers are made and they are able to talk about their issues because it's incognito and they're finally kind of coming out. But how does one know that one needs counseling? Or how does one know that one, if I may use, is now depressed? I mean, um, depression is an acute form of, you know, of an illness, so to say, or anxiety. Uh, Mild anxiety is okay. But how does one diagnose that one needs counseling?
So, I believe that all of us are on a spectrum, right? We all go through days or times so if you're talking about depression, when we all go through times when we feel low, there is a low mood, there is a general feeling of, say, malaise, you feel that you're not engaged or not interested in activities sometimes. But when you see this sort of a pattern over a prolonged period, so say for 2 or 3 weeks consistently, you're seeing that you just don't enjoy doing what you would normally do. Say if you normally meet a group of friends, you suddenly just don't enjoy interacting with them at all. Or if there is an activity that you were doing, say you suddenly feel that you're not able to focus on work at all. Maybe one day here, one day there is fine. A couple of times is okay. But if it's something that's happening consistently over a period of time, that's when that's a red flag, because then you would want to definitely seek medical advice. And also, I feel that even if you were to make a call to a counselor or a therapist, and after one conversation you feel, or she feels, that it's not that bad, you'll be able to cope without talking to the therapist. She may just give you certain do's and don'ts which you can include in your daily living as a part of daily practice, and that itself may just help. So it never harms in making that call in any case, and that's what exactly the helpline does for us. Very often people are confused. People don't know, is this a red flag or not? Do I need counseling or not? So very often they call up the helpline, and the counselors guide them in the right manner. And sometimes we do have callers calling back, taking appointments, and sometimes they just may want to make that call, which will last about 15 or 20 minutes once or twice a week, and that may just help them feel better. So I think you got to listen to your own body and your own mind, and go by your gut feel, because you will know that you have a sense of feeling very low. If you feel that you're constantly worried about, say, the pandemic situation, or it's constantly on your mind, so much so that it's not letting you focus on anything else, it's a nagging thought in your mind, then you would probably need help at that point in time, and you must seek that medical help.
Absolutely. In the New York Times, Adam Grant wrote a piece. There's a name for blah you're feeling. It's called languishness. You're languishing. It is a lack of focus and enthusiasm for things that you normally do well. So I think a lot of us are languishing. I look forward to my work because I have a responsibility and I enjoy what I do. But some days I also have to pull myself to being fully into the work because, my parents' health is on my mind, so on and so forth. My colleagues' health is on my mind. What's happening to some of my colleagues' immediate families is on mind. What's happening in the world is on mind. So clearly, how does one deal with it?
Yeah.
How does one deal with being languished, if I may use that term?
So I think you hit the nail on the head. I think all of us are going through this feeling of, this in-between sort of space where you may not necessarily have a depressive disorder, or may not necessarily be unwell, but you don't feel very sprightly, and you're not flourishing. So that very good feeling of absolute well-being is lacking. And I think all of us in different ways are going through it. And for me personally too, I feel that The second time around, I think I'm feeling the brunt of it far more. I think first time, it was the novelty and obviously being online, work continued, all of that. Um, and, you were able to focus on your family and, there were different things that you were trying, whether there were different hobbies, different people were trying different things. But I think second time around, I think it's hit us all much worse. And like you said, I think just seeing so much grief around has also really sapped us of energy. So for me, I think what works is just trying to trying to create different challenges for yourself on a daily basis, very small challenges, making small goals for yourself. So just make a goal for the day or make a goal for the week. Take up your regular work, or it could be anything. For example, it could be exercise, and make that a little bit more challenging for yourself. So setting up small goals, trying to find that excitement in your everyday routine, I think would probably help us, uh, you know, come out of this feeling of languishing. And of course, ultimately, we have to just give it time as well, because time is the best healer where this is concerned. Um, I think just focusing and trying to indulge more in things that we really enjoy doing, even if they are for shorter periods, but finding that and then having that discipline to be able to stick to that, even if it's for half an hour. I think uh, for me that works.
What I'm hearing from you is focus on the immediate, focus on short-term goals, focus on keeping yourself healthy, which means like you talk about exercise, do the things that can make you healthy and centered so that you can also be of value to your family. And again, simple things as sleeping on time. Sleep is a very important factor in keeping oneself calm and sane and centered. Doing these things and focusing on what you can focus and control possibly is the way forward. But it is normal to have a feeling of languishing.
Yeah, I also feel that
Yeah.
keeping away from negative news really helps, because I find that all of us, by default, we just only start talking about the pandemic, COVID, the vaccines, what's not working, what's working. Uh, you know, like how you say that, ghum fir ke, the topic comes back to the pandemic. So I think consciously keeping away from it, consciously, not watching the news all the time, not wanting to absorb negative news all the time, and consciously being away from it will also help. So even if you are wanting to read everything, give yourself say 20 minutes a day, and decide that it's going to be only 20 minutes and nothing more. I mean, I'm sure that whatever you need to know, you will know in 20 minutes, and anything more is not really going to add some positive value. So keeping away from negativity is a huge factor. I think that will help.
Okay. So, Ms. Birla is saying consume news a little less. Yes, sometimes watching news can be overwhelming. It's my job to watch it. But I totally understand where you're coming from. Let me shift gears and ask you this question. Uh, what do you personally do to be able to keep yourself centered and in some way more optimistic about life while feeling all the emotions that you feel, which are natural? I mean, if someone who works with you goes to heaven, and it will impact you. And when you see grief all around, it will impact you. But how do you keep yourself centered?
So I think what is helping me and what helps me is firstly, of course, knowing and accepting that feelings of anxiety and feelings of little this languishing kind of feeling is normal to a certain extent. So not to fight with yourself if you feel like that. On the positive side, what helps is like I'm a big believer in exercise. So that's a part of my routine that I really like to stick with, because the days I don't exercise, I feel very I just don't feel good. Meditating is what really helps also. Devoting a little bit of time to some spiritual practice, spiritual study helps me being centered as well. And then sometimes just taking time off the phone and just focusing on what you're doing. So I mean, like say for example, yesterday over the weekend, my daughter and I focused on doing a Lego. We love creating Legos. So we just did that. We just took time off and just just made a Lego for the 2 days, and it was just so therapeutic and just so relaxing. So something as simple as that also can really go a long way in just centering you and just grounding you and taking you away from the negativity that's around. And of course, spending time and connecting with family and friends, I think, is very, very important. And that's another thing that really helps me keep grounded.
Thank you so much. My last two questions. One is, do you think in the last 15 months, 16 months, mental well-being has really become something that is top of mind with everyone, and enough is being done to address it? Not just being top of mind, but enough is being done to address it. And one of the things that comes up is the number of therapists in India are very, very low. What is being done to build the bench strength in terms of the therapists, in terms of mental well-being professionals who can then be of use? So do you think enough is being done, especially after what we've seen in the last 15 months? Or do you think a lot more needs to be done?
I think it's a little bit of both, because I think from where we were 15 months ago to where we are today, we've of course made headway, because people are now talking about it quite openly. People are less stigmatized to seeking help. So we are on the right path, but if you ask me that is enough being done, so it's never going to be enough actually. So no matter how much ever you do, it's never going to be enough, because our numbers are huge. And about 18 to 20% of our population is already suffering from mental health concerns, which itself is very high. The treatment gap is very large. So the number of psychiatrists and psychologists in terms of, compared to the number of people that we have are very few. So it's never going to be enough, but yes, we have to be at it. And a great way is to maybe start at, say, at the university and college level. If we are able to introduce more courses to do with counseling and psychiatry, different forms of mental health education, that will really go a long way, because we definitely need far more resource people to be able to cater to the large audiences that we have, the large population that we have. So yes, we are on the right path, but yes, a lot more needs to be done as well. Even at the rural level, actually integrating mental health policy as a part of, at the grassroots level, that is very, very important. That's really key, because at least we're talking about in in urban areas and urban cities, but in back at the grassroots level, in the rural part of the country, there is just very, very less awareness, or absolutely nothing at all.
Thank you for bringing that out and calling it out. Now, one of the very important segment which is suffering from depression and sometimes is not able to articulate is children between the age of 12 and 20. I'm taking 12 and 18. And especially I as an adult, you as an adult have seen many seasons. So we are a little more adept at handling it. We brought up kids. We've seen the world. But these children who are used to a certain way of working have actually, whether they're not going to the school, they're not doing any physical activity, because they're not allowed to go outside the home. How do children cope up with anxiety, and what can parents do to help them cope up with anxiety?
Yeah. So children are, of course, facing the brunt of it because of all the factors that you said. But I think as parents, we need to just reduce the load on them to start with first. Whether it's the academic load, whether it's expectations out of them, we just really need to reduce the load on them. It's a bit more easier than what it is just now. And just being around for the children itself is a huge support system. Of course, parents themselves are also going through their own angst. So, which is also understandable. But as far as possible, just to be there, to know that, for them to know that you are there, you understand what they are going through, that also is a very big support system. And like I always say, if the parents feel that this is a red flag, they should definitely seek help, because the way a counselor can help you out of a situation, is obviously different, and sort of in many ways, the professional help always goes a long way.
My last question is that, we always said that, we should uh, decrease the screen time we have. Now, both as adults in our working and as children in what they do, because of being homebound, our screen time has actually gone up. We're spending much more screen time. And we've always said to ourselves and to everyone that we have to minimize the screen time. How does one deal with this kind of dilemma and this dichotomy?
Yeah, so it is a dichotomy actually. So I guess what one could do is actually prioritize it. So say if you're obviously like say for you and me now, if we have to be on Zoom, then at least the other things that we would have done, which would require us to be online, we could reduce that. So you're firstly prioritizing and just doing the things that are really important. And within that also, I think if we can have not have Zoom meetings if you don't really need to have it. If some stuff can be done across mail, if something could be done across a phone call, as far as possible, try and minimize the on-screen interaction. Uh, I think so. Putting these little things in place, maybe it's not any one big thing that's going to make an impact, but maybe making small changes would bring about an incremental difference.
Okay. As we sign off, I'd like to ask you, if I had to talk to you in 3 to 6 months from now, what are the changes in the mental health landscape you'd like to see? You already outlined the fact that we need to have more professionals being trained at the school, college, university level. You outlined the fact that these are tough times, so feelings in the way we are dealing with things is normal. But tell me, what needs to change over the next 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months? If I talk to you in a couple of months again, in the mental landscape, the mental health landscape, what do you see being addressed?
I think the first thing that we would all want is some sort of a normalcy to our lives, right? And we would all want that the pandemic subsides, the COVID cases reduce. That automatically will bring about normalcy in our lives, which in turn will definitely impact the mental health landscape. So, people who would otherwise not have mental health issues would be out of that spectrum once life normalizes. So that would be the first part. And then, of course, I mean, in the long run, I think it is a long-term goal is where we see that there's a lot more capacity building happening. There are more mental health experts in the field so that we're able to cater to a larger audience. Also, one thing I think which is very important is actually reaching out to schools and colleges and mental health becoming a part of the curriculum. So we have started that. We have a program called Minds Matter, where we are reaching out to where we're actually trying to make mental health as a part of the curriculum so that children start right from the beginning, firstly knowing what it is, acknowledging it, and then also learning the right coping strategies and mechanisms so that they're able to deal with life better. And also sensitizing them so that if there are other people suffering from it, how can you help them? So I think starting it at a school level is a very important part for us. And that is something that I would really want more and more schools to imbibe.
Ms. Birla, it is ironic. They say that being happy, being cheerful builds immunity. They say that every minute you're angry, it takes away from your immunity. It impacts your heart. And every minute that you're happy, you laugh, you're cheerful, if I may use that disposition, it adds to your immunity. In these times, we need immunity most. So possibly, as you said, take the pressure off yourself first, the expectations from yourself. I know all of us have responsibility. Second is to be kinder and compassionate to others. And third is to be able to offer help to others. I think if we did that, it will automatically focus us on helping others, and in that way feeling, that we are contributing to someone's well-being. I think just being able to contribute uplifts you, I would say. So thank you so much for doing what you do, and we wish you luck, and we look forward to more conversation and engagements with you. And I hope, like you said, if COVID is controlled and if we are able to return to some sort of normalcy, I think that itself will cheer a lot of people up, and hopefully the grief we see around ourselves will come down. So thank you so much, Ms. Neerja Birla, the founder and chairperson of Mpower, for talking to BW Wellbeing and BW Business World. We look forward to more interaction, and we wish you more power in what you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhaskar. Thank you very much.